My mother laughed at the family dinner and said, "No wonder you're still single at 35." She had no clue my husband had just dropped me off 20 minutes earlier, or that our 3-year-old daughter was playing with her grandfather's old chess set in a house she didn't know I owned. She called me a failure. I had a mortgage-free home, a loving husband, and a daughter who said thank you without being asked. And I was about to expose everything, at her own gala dinner. My name is Rachel Donovan, and at 35, I've mastered the art of living 2 lives. In one, I'm the disappointment my mother sees single, stubborn, and perpetually falling short of her Connecticut society standards. In the other, I'm exactly who I want to be: a communications director at a Portland tech startup, wife to a kind software developer, and mother to a precocious 3-year-old who insists on wearing mismatched socks because rainbows don't match either, Mama. The dinner where my mother delivered her latest barb about my single status was just another Tuesday in the Donovan family theater. We were gathered at her sprawling colonial in Greenwich, the kind of place where even the doorknobs judge you. My younger cousin had just announced his engagement to a surgeon, the perfect addition to our family's collection of approved professions. "Such wonderful news, Bradley," Mother cooed, her perfectly manicured hands clasped together like she was praying to the god of social status. Then her gaze shifted to me, and I knew what was coming. I always knew. "Perhaps you could learn something from your cousin, Rachel. He's 3 years younger and already building a proper life." I took a sip of wine, the good stuff, because if nothing else, Linda Donovan knew her vintages. 20 minutes earlier, Daniel had kissed me goodbye in the parking lot of the country club down the street. "Give 'em hell, babe," he'd whispered, knowing I'd never tell them about us. Not yet. "I'm doing fine, Mother," I replied, the same script I'd been reciting for 3 years. "Fine," she laughed, that crystalline sound that could cut glass. "Fine is what we say when we've given up. No wonder you're still single at 35. My Aunt Margaret tittered. My Uncle Charles coughed into his whiskey. Bradley's fiancée, the surgeon, looked uncomfortable. She was new to our family's particular brand of emotional blood sport. What would they say if they knew the truth? That right now, while they dissected my failures over beef Wellington, my daughter Maya was probably convincing her father to let her stay up past bedtime. She had my stubbornness and Daniel's gentle logic, a combination that usually resulted in elaborate negotiations involving future vegetable consumption. I'd hidden them for 3 years, 3 years of scheduled visits, careful alibis, and maintaining a fake studio apartment that my mother believed was my sad, single-girl dwelling. The real apartment gathered dust and held just enough personal items to pass inspection during her surprise visits. Yes, she had a key, because Linda Donovan always had keys to everything she thought she owned, including her children's lives. My actual home, the one Daniel and I had bought with our combined savings and his stock options, sat 40 minutes away in a Portland suburb. Nothing fancy by Donovan standards, just a 1920s craftsman with original hardwood floors and a kitchen where we actually cooked meals instead of catering them. Maya's artwork covered the refrigerator. Daniel's coding books lived in happy chaos with my marketing reports. It smelled like cinnamon and coffee, and the lavender plant I couldn't seem to kill despite my black thumb. "Are you even listening to me, Rachel?" Mother's voice sliced through my thoughts. "Always," I lied smoothly. "I was saying that Martha's daughter, you remember Martha from the club, just married a cardiologist. They're honeymooning in the Maldives." She paused for effect. "Martha was asking about you. I had to tell her you were still finding yourself." Finding myself? If only she knew how found I was. How every morning I woke up to Daniel's terrible singing in the shower, and Maya's demands for rainbow pancakes, regular pancakes, with food coloring a weekend tradition. How we spent Sundays at farmers markets and local parks, instead of country clubs and charity galas. How I discovered that love wasn't about pedigrees and portfolios, but about someone who held your hair when you had morning sickness and read "Goodnight Moon" 17 times in a row because your toddler insisted. "Maybe I like who I'm finding," I said, knowing it would bounce off her like everything else. "Don't be ridiculous. You're a Donovan. We don't find ourselves in some corporate communications job. We marry well. We maintain standards. We contribute to society in meaningful ways. Meaningful ways, like her charity boards where she spent more on a single luncheon than most families spent on groceries in a month. Like the social climbing disguised as philanthropy. Like the way she'd systematically crushed every dream I'd had that didn't align with her vision. Speaking of contributions, she continued, the Harrison's son just opened his own practice, orthopedic surgery. I could arrange a casual meeting. No. The word came out sharper than intended. The table went silent. Even the grandfather clock in the hallway seemed to pause its ticking. I beg your pardon. I said no, Mother. No more setups. No more casual meetings with eligible doctors or lawyers or investment bankers. Rachel Elizabeth Donovan, you're being realistic, honest, an adult making her own choices. My cousin Bradley shifted uncomfortably. His fiancée was definitely reconsidering her life choices. Welcome to the family, sweetheart. Mother's face had taken on that particular shade of pink that preceded either a migraine or a tirade. This is exactly why you're alone. This attitude, this stubborn refusal to accept guidance from those who know better. Those who know better, the same people who thought happiness could be measured in square footage and stock portfolios, who believed love was a business merger with good PR, who turned every family gathering into a performance review where I consistently failed to meet expectations. I thought about telling her right then. The words bubbled up like champagne, ready to overflow. Actually, Mother, I'm not alone. I have a husband who codes solutions to make the world better and thinks I'm beautiful even when I'm covered in baby food. I have a daughter who calls butterflies flutterbys and insists on kissing every scraped knee on her stuffed animals. I have a life so full of joy that sometimes I can't sleep because I'm afraid it's all a dream. But I swallowed the words like I always did. Not because I was ashamed, God. I was so proud of my little family, but because I knew she'd try to destroy it. She'd show up with her judgments and her money and her connections, trying to fix what wasn't broken, trying to mold Daniel into someone he wasn't, trying to turn Maya into another perfect Donovan princess. I wasn't ready for that fight, not yet. So I smiled, that practiced Donovan smile that committed to nothing. You're right, Mother. I should be more open to guidance. She relaxed slightly. Victory temporarily achieved. The conversation moved on to safer topics. Bradley's wedding plans, the new golf course at the club, which of their friends had divorced and who was to blame. I nodded at appropriate intervals, made the right sounds, played my part, but my mind was already home, where Daniel would be waiting with a glass of wine and Maya would demand cuddle time before bed, where I was not Rachel Donovan, disappointing spinster daughter, but just Rachel loved, chosen, complete. As dinner concluded and I prepared to leave, Mother pulled me aside. I worry about you, she said, and for a moment, I saw something almost like genuine concern in her eyes. I know, I replied, because she did worry, just not about the right things. Let me help you. Darling, let me introduce you to someone suitable. You're running out of time. Running out of time. As if life was a race with a finish line marked married by 30 or failure forever. As if the life I'd built outside her narrow vision was just a placeholder until I found a man with the right credentials to make me real. I'll think about it, I promised, another lie to add to the collection. She kissed my cheek, her lips barely grazing the skin the Donovan way. Affection without warmth. Drive safely. That car of yours is practically ancient. My 5-year-old Honda, perfectly functional and fully paid off. Another disappointment in the ledger of my life. I walked to my ancient car, breathing in the cool Connecticut evening air. Somewhere across town, my real life waited. In 20 minutes, I'd shed this skin like a snake, transform back into the woman I actually was. Daniel would ask how it went, and I'd tell him the truth that it was awful and exhausting, and that I loved him more for every moment he wasn't there to witness it. My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. Maya negotiated an extra story in exchange for eating her broccoli. I'm weak. Also, she asked if Grandma Linda lives in the castle from Frozen. I said probably. I laughed. A real laugh that would have horrified my mother with its lack of restraint. 3 years of this double life, 3 years of secrets and lies and careful choreography. But sitting in that country club parking lot, I made a decision. Not tonight, not next week, but soon, very soon, Linda Donovan would learn exactly who her daughter had become. And when that day came, I wouldn't need her approval anymore. I'd already found something better, a life worth living, even if I had to hide it in the shadows for now. Growing up in the Donovan household was like living in a museum where you were both the exhibit and the critic. Every move was observed, catalogued, and usually found wanting. The house itself, a massive colonial in Greenwich with more rooms than reasons to fill them, stood as a monument to my parents' success and my perpetual inadequacy. My father, Jack Donovan, was the buffer between mother's expectations and my reality. Where she was sharp edges and cutting remarks, he was soft corners and quiet encouragement. He'd sneak into my room after particularly brutal family dinners, bringing contraband ice cream and stories about his own rebellious youth, though I suspected he embellished them for my benefit. "Your mother means well," he'd say, the same excuse he'd been making for 20 years. "She just wants the best for you." Her best or my best? I'd asked once, probably around age 16, after she'd thrown away my application to art school and enrolled me in pre-law without asking. He'd paused, his spoon halfway to his mouth. "Sometimes, sweetheart, we have to find our own best when no one's looking." I didn't understand what he meant then. I was too young, too caught up in the daily battle of living under Linda Donovan's regime. My schedule was blocked in 15-minute increments, violin lessons, quit after she heard me play, equestrian training until I fell off and refused to get back on, French tutoring still useful. Actually, and endless etiquette classes where I learned the proper way to do everything from eating soup to declining an invitation. Shoulders back, Rachel, a lady doesn't slouch. That laugh is too loud. Refined women don't bray. Must you walk like that? You're not trudging through a farm field? Every correction chipped away at whoever I might have been, sculpting me into her vision of the perfect daughter. My clothes were selected, my friends vetted, my interests curated. I attended the right schools, not because I wanted to, but because Donovans had always attended them. I dated the right boys, sons of her friends, future masters of the universe who talked about their trust funds with the same passion I felt for absolutely nothing in my prescribed life. The only rebellion I managed was in small, secret ways, reading novels she'd consider trash under my covers with a flashlight, listening to music that wasn't classical on a hidden iPod, writing in journals I kept locked in a box beneath loose floorboards in my closet, pages filled with dreams of a life where I could choose my own adjectives. Then, when I was 23, Dad died. It wasn't dramatic, no long illness to prepare us, no goodbye scenes, a heart attack on the golf course between the 9th and 10th holes. His playing partner said he'd just mentioned feeling tired, sat down on a bench, and never got back up. That was Dad. Considerate to the end, not wanting to make a fuss. The funeral was everything he would have hated: ostentatious, formal, full of people who knew his portfolio better than his favorite joke. Mother orchestrated it like one of her charity galas, every detail designed to project the right image. Even her grief seemed curated, elegant tears that never smudged her makeup. I sat in that church, listening to business associates eulogize a man they'd never really known, and realized I'd lost my only ally, the one person who'd seen me as more than a project to be perfected. Without Dad's gentle interference, Mother's control intensified. It was as if she believed that with enough pressure, she could compress me into the diamond daughter she'd always wanted. My graduate school applications were edited to reflect the right career paths. My apartment hunting was redirected to buildings where the right people lived. My casual dates became formal setups with men who had the right credentials. "The Ashford boy is perfect for you," she announced one evening, having apparently decided my love life needed her executive management. "Harvard Medical School. Comes from excellent stock. His mother and I have already discussed the potential." Discuss the potential, what am I? A merger and acquisition. Don't be dramatic. Rachel, I'm simply ensuring you don't waste your prime years on inappropriate choices. Inappropriate choices, like wanting to work in communications instead of law, like preferring books to benefits, like believing love should involve actual feelings rather than strategic planning. The parade of eligible bachelors began in earnest. Dinner parties where I'd find myself seated next to whichever Princeton graduate she'd identified as husband material. Charity events where she'd arrange chance encounters with suitable prospects. Even vacations became opportunities for romantic ambushes. Suddenly we'd run into the Weatherbys and their unmarried doctor's son at resorts that required advance booking. Mother, I finally exploded after the third ambush vacation. I'm capable of finding my own dates. Evidence suggests otherwise, she'd replied coolly. You're 28. Rachel, your eggs are aging. My eggs. As if I was a carton of dairy products approaching its expiration date. Each setup followed the same script. The man, always professionally successful, always from the right background, would spend the evening talking about himself, his practice, his investments, his family's summer home. I'd nod and smile, playing the part of the interested potential wife, while internally calculating how many minutes until I could politely escape. Rachel seems lovely, they'd tell my mother afterward. So quiet and attentive. Quiet because I'd learned that my actual thoughts were consistently wrong. Attentive because I'd perfected the art of appearing engaged while mentally redecorating their boring personalities. The worst part, some of them weren't bad people, just wrong. Wrong for me. Wrong for the life I wanted but couldn't articulate because I'd never been allowed to want anything specific. They looked at me and saw Linda Donovan's daughter pedigree, connections, potential. They never saw Rachel. Mainly because I'd hidden her so deep, even I sometimes forgot where to look. By 30, the setups had taken on a desperate quality. Mother's matching efforts became less subtle, more aggressive. She'd practically shove us together at events, her introductions laden with resume highlights and reproductive urgency. This is my daughter Rachel, single, very single. Did I mention she's single? I started making excuses, work trips that didn't exist, friends' emergencies that never happened, sudden illnesses that miraculously cleared up the moment the eligible bachelor left town. But Linda Donovan was nothing if not persistent. For every excuse I made, she found a workaround. For every boundary I set, she found a loophole. I'm only trying to help, she'd say when I protested. Do you want to end up alone? Is that really what you want? What I wanted was the freedom to find out what I wanted, to make mistakes that were mine to make, to choose loneliness over the wrong companionship, if that's what it came to believe that being alone might be better than being with someone who saw me as an acquisition rather than a person. But those weren't options in Linda Donovan's world. In her universe, a woman without a suitable husband was like a mansion without furniture, technically complete, but obviously lacking something essential. The Christmas before I turned 31 was particularly brutal. She'd invited the Henderson family to stay for the entire week between Christmas and New Year's. Their son, Marcus, was a hedge fund manager who collected vintage cars and talked about women like they were similar investments appreciating assets to be acquired and maintained. You two have so much in common, Mother insisted, though we had nothing in common beyond our mutual discomfort with the situation. I spent that week dodging Marcus's attempts at romance, if you could call his calculated moves romantic. He approached dating like a business deal, complete with projections about our future earning potential as a couple and the tax benefits of marriage. Your mother says you work in communications, he'd mentioned over forced conversation. That's nice. Of course, you wouldn't need to continue after children. I like my job, I'd replied. Of course you do, but priorities change. My mother gave up her little hobby when she married Dad. She says it was the best decision she ever made. His little hobby, her career, our future already mapped out in his mind. My preferences as irrelevant as my consent apparently was to this entire arrangement. That night, I'd locked myself in my childhood bathroom and cried not pretty tears like Mother would approve of, but ugly, body-shaking sobs. At 31, I was still trapped in the same house, the same patterns, the same suffocating expectations. "You'll thank me someday," Mother had said when the Hendersons finally left. Marcus's business card pressed into my unwilling hand. "When you're married with children, living a proper life, you'll understand I did this all for you." For me, everything was always for me, except nothing ever was. It was for the idea of me, the should-be version of me, the daughter she'd ordered but never quite received. Looking back now, from the safety of my real life with Daniel and Maya, I can see those years more clearly. The casual cruelty of denying someone their own choices, the violence of forced conformity wrapped in maternal concern, the way she'd systematically trained me to doubt every instinct that didn't align with her vision. But I can also see the cracks I'd started making in her perfect facade. Every refused date, every failed setup, every time I said no when she expected yes, they were practice runs for the biggest rebellion of all. Because somewhere between the endless parade of eligible men and the suffocating expectations, I'd made a decision. I was going to leave. I was going to build a life she couldn't control, even if I had to lie to do it. Portland was calling, and I was finally ready to answer. The job offer from Portland arrived on a Tuesday, an unremarkable day that would become my personal Independence Day. A tech startup needed a communications director, and somehow my resume had found its way through their algorithms despite Mother's best efforts to keep me tethered to the East Coast. Portland. She'd said the word like it was a communicable disease. That's practically Canada. What could possibly be in Portland that isn't better here? Freedom. I'd thought but didn't say. Space. The chance to breathe without asking permission. It's a tremendous opportunity. I tried to explain. The company is doing innovative work in sustainable technology. Sustainable technology. She'd actually laughed. "Rachel, you can't be serious. You'd leave everything here, your family, your connections, your entire life to work for some startup that will probably fail within a year." "It might fail," I admitted. "But it might not. And either way, it would be my choice." The fight that followed was epic, even by Donovan's standards. She deployed every weapon in her arsenal. Guilt. Your father would be devastated. Fear. You'll be completely alone out there. Social pressure. What will people think? And finally, financial threats. Don't expect me to support this foolishness. But for once, I held firm. The girl who'd spent 31 years bending finally found her spine. "I'm going. Mother, with or without your blessing." "Then it will be without," she'd said coldly. "And when you come crawling back, because you will come crawling back, don't expect me to make it easy." I moved to Portland in March, driving across the country in my Honda with everything I owned that truly mattered. The rest, the approved wardrobe, the family heirloom furniture, the expectations I left behind in Connecticut. Those first months were terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. I'd never chosen my own apartment before, never decided on my own furniture, never shopped for groceries without considering what Mother would think of my selections. Every decision, from paint colors to pizza toppings, felt revolutionary. The job was demanding but fulfilling in ways I'd never experienced. My ideas mattered. My opinions had weight. My colleagues saw me as Rachel, the communications expert, not Rachel, the disappointing daughter. For the first time in my life, I was building something based on merit rather than pedigree. Mother, predictably, didn't give up easily. The calls started immediately. "How's your little experiment going?" she'd ask, voice dripping with skepticism. "It's not an experiment, it's my life. Your life is here. Rachel, this phase you're going through." I'd hang up, another first hanging up on Linda Donovan. Then came the visits. She'd appear without warning. Having flown across the country to check on me, she'd inspect my apartment with the thoroughness of a health inspector, finding fault with everything from the neighborhood, so urban, to my decor choices, rather bohemian, isn't it? "I found you a lovely condo in Back Bay," she announced during one visit. "The Hartman's daughter just married and moved out. It would be perfect for you when you come home." "I am home," I insisted, but she waved this away like smoke. The worst were her networking attempts, even from across the country. She managed to find connections in Portland. Suddenly, I'd get calls from random Princeton alumni who happened to be in town, sons of her friends who were passing through on business. Once, she actually flew out with a cardiologist in tow, claiming they'd been seated together on the plane, and wasn't it such a coincidence that he was single? "Mother, you need to stop," I told her after the cardiologist incident. "I'm not looking for a husband. I'm building a career." "You can't marry a career. Rachel, you can't have children with a job." But I was learning that maybe I could have something else, a life that belonged to me. It was at a coffee shop downtown where I first saw Daniel. Not a setup, not an ambush, just a random Tuesday morning encounter. He was at the next table, completely absorbed in his laptop, occasionally laughing at something on his screen. When he caught me staring, instead of the practiced smile I expected, he grinned and said, "Sorry, my code just did something accidentally hilarious." You ever have those moments where your mistakes are better than your intentions? Yes, I thought, my whole life in Portland was one beautiful mistake according to my mother. We started talking about his work developing apps to help nonprofits manage resources, about mine trying to make tech companies sound human, about the rain, the coffee, the way Portland felt like a place where you could reinvent yourself. "I'm Daniel," he said eventually, extending a hand. "Rachel," I replied, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel the need to add Donovan like a validation stamp. We met for coffee the next week, then lunch, then dinner, each time. I waited for him to ask about my family, my background, the things that usually came up when people were measuring your worth. But Daniel asked different questions. What made me laugh? What kept me up at night? If I could change one thing about how we communicate, what would it be? "You're not like the guys I usually date," I told him after our 5th date. "Is that good or bad?" he'd asked, genuinely uncertain. "Good," I assured him. "Very, very good." Mother knew nothing about Daniel. By then, I'd learned to compartmentalize my life. There was Portland Rachel, who went on hikes and tried new restaurants and fell asleep laughing at Daniel's terrible puns. And there was daughter Rachel, who provided carefully edited updates during obligatory phone calls. "Are you seeing anyone?" Mother would ask, her radar apparently functional even from 3,000 miles away. "No one special," I'd lie, looking at the flowers Daniel had brought me just because it was Wednesday. She escalated her efforts. The visiting connections increased. She started sending newspaper clippings about successful women who'd balanced career and family, all married by 32. Naturally. Once, she actually hired a private investigator to check on me, though he was so obvious I spotted him within a day and led him on a boring tour of grocery stores and office supply shops until he gave up. "She means well," Daniel said when I finally told him about her. We'd been dating for 6 months, and I couldn't keep the two halves of my life separate anymore. "That's what everyone says, but meaning well and doing good aren't the same thing." "No," he agreed. "They're not. But she can't control you from there. You've already won by leaving." But I hadn't won. Not really. I was still lying, still hiding, still letting her opinion matter more than my own happiness. Every time she visited, Daniel became a ghost. I'd remove all traces of him from my apartment, hide his toothbrush and his coding books, and the photos of us hiking the Columbia River Gorge. I'd become single Rachel again, enduring her inspections and interventions and introductions. "This is exhausting," Daniel said after the 4th time I'd made him disappear. "I feel like I'm dating a spy." "I'm sorry," I said, and I was. If she knows about you, she'll ruin it. She'll find some way to make you wrong, to make me doubt this, and I can't lose you to her opinions." He pulled me close then. This man who wrote elegant code and made terrible jokes and saw me as whole rather than lacking. "You won't lose me to anyone's opinions. But Rachel, at some point, you're going to have to choose. Her approval or your life. You can't have both." He was right. Of course, the double life was unsustainable. Every lie was a weight. Every hidden truth a crack in the foundation I was building. But I wasn't ready yet to make that choice. I still believed, somehow, that I could have both the life I wanted and the mother who would accept it. I should have known better. Linda Donovan didn't accept anything she hadn't personally orchestrated. The calls increased, the visits grew longer, the eligible bachelors appeared with alarming frequency. She was tightening the net, trying to reel me back to the life she'd planned. "You're 33, she reminded me during one particularly tense phone call. "The clock is ticking. Rachel, whatever you're trying to prove, haven't you proven it by now?" What I was trying to prove was that I existed outside her narrow definitions, that I could build something beautiful without her blueprint, that love didn't require a resume or a pedigree or her personal stamp of approval. But I couldn't tell her that, not yet, so I deflected and delayed, made excuses and told half-truths, all while Daniel and I grew closer, stronger, more certain that what we had was worth protecting from anyone who might try to tear it down. "When you're ready," he'd say, when the topic of my mother came up, "I'll be here when you're ready." I thought I had time. I thought I could manage both lives indefinitely, keeping them in separate boxes like seasonal decorations. But secrets have a way of demanding daylight, and Linda Donovan had never met a boundary she wouldn't cross. The collision was coming. I just didn't know it yet. The proposal happened on a rainy Saturday in November. Nothing like the elaborate productions Mother had always described as proper. Daniel and I were cooking dinner together in his apartment pasta with homemade sauce. Nothing fancy when he suddenly stopped stirring and turned to me. "I can't do this anymore," he said, and my heart dropped. "Do what I asked, preparing for the worst. Pretend that this is casual. Pretend that I don't want to wake up next to you every morning for the rest of my life." He reached into the kitchen drawer, the junk drawer, where we kept takeout menus and rubber bands, and pulled out a small velvet box. "I know your mother doesn't know I exist. I know this isn't how it's supposed to go according to whatever playbook she's written. But Rachel, I love you. Not your last name or your connections or what you represent. Just you. Marry me." The ring was perfect not because it was huge or expensive, it wasn't, but because it was absolutely what I would have chosen. A simple sapphire surrounded by tiny diamonds, unique without being ostentatious, beautiful without screaming its worth. "Yes," I said, not hesitating even a second. "Yes, of course, yes." We decided to elope. A big wedding would mean involving Mother, and I couldn't imagine trying to plan something joyful while managing her disappointment in everything from Daniel's profession to the guest list. Instead, we drove to the Oregon coast on a Wednesday in December, just us and 2 friends as witnesses, and got married barefoot on the beach despite the cold. "No regrets?" Daniel asked as we stood there, sand between our toes, waves crashing behind us. "Only that I didn't do this sooner," I told him, and meant it. The plan was to tell Mother eventually, after the honeymoon, after the holidays, after we'd had time to settle into married life, after, always after, when some mythical perfect moment would arrive and make the conversation easier. But life doesn't wait for perfect moments. I found out I was pregnant 3 months after the wedding. Daniel and I were ecstatic. We talked about kids, wanted them, just hadn't expected it to happen so quickly. But with the joy came terror. How could I hide a pregnancy from Mother? How long could I maintain this double life with a baby on the way? "We have to tell her," Daniel said gently. "She's going to be a grandmother." "She's going to be furious," I corrected. "A grandmother to a child whose father she's never met. From a marriage she didn't approve, she'll disown me." "Would that be such a bad thing?" he asked, and I couldn't answer because I honestly didn't know. We'd moved into our house by then, the 1920s craftsman I'd fallen in love with at first sight. It needed work, but it was ours. No trust fund down payment, no family money, just our combined savings and a mortgage we could actually afford. I'd painted the nursery soft yellow, gender neutral and sunny, full of hope. Mother's visits became increasingly difficult to manage. I was showing by month 5, and no amount of strategic wardrobe choices could hide it forever. I started making excuses: work trips, food poisoning, a fictional conference in Seattle that lasted 2 weeks. "You're being very strange lately," she said during one phone call. "Are you ill? You sound different." Different, happier than I'd ever been, terrified of her reaction, growing a human being while maintaining an elaborate lie. "Just busy with work," I deflected. Too busy for your mother, I'm flying out next week. We need to discuss your future. Panic. Pure, immediate panic. I was 6 months pregnant, visibly showing, living in a house she didn't know existed with a husband she'd never met. Next week's not good. I've already booked the flight, Tuesday through Friday. And Rachel, I'm bringing someone I want you to meet. The Pemberton boy just moved to Seattle for residency, orthopedic surgery, very accomplished. I hung up and immediately threw up, though whether from morning sickness or anxiety, I couldn't tell. We'll manage it, Daniel assured me. We'll figure something out. What we figured out was perhaps the most elaborate deception of my life. I rented a studio apartment for the week, actually rented it, complete with furniture rental and staged photos of a sad single life. Daniel and I spent days creating the perfect facade. We even hung clothes I hadn't worn in years, placed old law school books I'd never opened, created a vision of the life Mother expected me to be living. This is insane, Daniel said as we arranged fake mail on the counter. Welcome to my childhood, I replied. The week of her visit, Daniel stayed with friends. I moved into the fake apartment, 6 months pregnant and exhausted from maintaining the charade. Every morning I'd wake up in that sterile space, missing my husband, missing my real home, missing the life I'd built but couldn't claim. Mother arrived with her usual fanfare, and true to her word, with Dr. Pemberton in tow, he was everything her previous candidates had been pedigreed, accomplished, and completely wrong for me. You look different, she said immediately, surveying me with those sharp eyes. Have you gained weight? A little, I admitted, grateful for the empire waist dress that disguised my bump. Stress eating. Well, stop it. Dr. Pemberton doesn't need to see you at less than your best. Dr. Pemberton, it turned out, was actually a decent guy who seemed as uncomfortable with the situation as I was. Over dinner, he quietly mentioned his boyfriend back in Seattle, a detail that had somehow escaped Mother's reconnaissance. I'm just here to make my parents happy, he whispered while she was interrogating the waiter about wine selections. No offense. None taken, I whispered back. I'm married. Actually, she doesn't know. His eyes widened. How long? Over a year. We have a baby on the way. And she doesn't know. He looked at me with a mixture of admiration and horror. That's incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Both, I admitted. Definitely both. The rest of the week was torture. Mother critiqued everything about my fake life. The apartment too small, the neighborhood too young, my job still just a phase. She dragged me to dinners where she not so subtly promoted my availability to every eligible man in Portland's medical community, apparently having given up on Dr. Pemberton after sensing his lack of interest. I don't understand you, she said on her last day, sitting in my fake apartment surrounded by my fake life. You could have everything a proper husband, a real home, children who would grow up with advantages. Instead, you're here, playing at independence, wasting your best years on some feminist fantasy. I sat there, my hand unconsciously resting on my hidden belly where my daughter was doing somersaults, and realized Daniel was right. This had to end. The lie was becoming bigger than the truth, requiring more energy to maintain than my actual life required to live. What if I'm happy? I asked quietly. Happy, she laughed. That cutting sound I'd heard all my life. Happiness is what people settle for when they can't have success. I raised you for more than happiness, Rachel. After she left, I drove straight home, my real home, and collapsed into Daniel's arms. Maya, though we didn't know her name yet, kicked between us, a reminder of what actually mattered. Never again, I promised. I'm done hiding us. But promises are easier made than kept, and patterns established over a lifetime don't break easily. When Maya was born, I told Mother I was taking a sabbatical to find myself. When she took her first steps, I said I was too busy with a work project to visit. When she said her first word dog, not mama, much to my amusement, I was supposedly at a professional development seminar. The double life continued, even as it became more absurd. A husband who didn't exist to my mother, a daughter she didn't know she had, a house full of love and laughter and finger paintings that I had to pretend wasn't mine. "This has to stop," Daniel said when Maya turned 2. "She's going to start asking questions. Why doesn't she have a grandma? Why do I have to hide when someone calls? We're making our daughter keep secrets before she can even spell secret." He was right. I was perpetuating the very cycle I'd tried to escape, teaching my daughter to hide parts of herself for someone else's comfort. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I was becoming my mother, just in reverse, curating a false reality to avoid conflict. But the alternative, telling her the truth, felt impossible. 3 years of lies had created a web I couldn't see how to untangle without destroying everything. She'd never forgive the deception, never accept Daniel, never embrace Maya. The family I'd built would become a battleground, and I wasn't ready for that war. So I continued the charade, even as it poisoned the thing it was meant to protect. Every lie to Mother was a small betrayal of my real family. Every "I'm still single" was a denial of Daniel's existence. Every hidden photo of Maya was a rejection of her right to be known and celebrated. The weight of it was crushing, but not as crushing as what was coming, the moment when all those carefully separated worlds would collide, and I'd have to choose, finally and irrevocably, between the mother who raised me and the family I'd raised in secret. The cracks in my double life were showing everywhere. Daniel's patience, saintly for 3 years, was wearing thin, not with anger. Daniel didn't do anger, but with a sadness that was somehow worse. Maya asked me why she can't talk to Grandma Linda on the phone. He told me one evening after I'd rushed him and Maya out of the house for another surprise mother visit. What am I supposed to tell her? "What did you say?" I said Grandma lives far away and doesn't know how to use phones properly. He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I recognized as barely contained frustration. "I'm teaching our daughter to lie. Rachel, me, the guy who returns extra change at the grocery store." He was right. We'd built this beautiful, honest life together, and I was poisoning it with deception. Maya was starting to notice things: why certain photos came down when Mommy was stressed, why Daddy took special trips sometimes, why we played the quiet game when certain calls came in. The breaking point started small, as these things often do. Mother had called during Maya's bath time. I'd stepped into the hallway to take it, leaving Daniel to manage the bubbles and rubber ducks. "I've been thinking," Mother announced without preamble. "It's time for an intervention." An intervention. I kept my voice low, hearing Maya's laughter through the door. "You're 35, Rachel, 35 and still single. I've scheduled an appointment with a therapist who specializes in commitment issues." "I don't have commitment issues." "Really? Then explain why you've rejected every suitable man I've introduced. The therapist thinks you might have attachment disorders from losing your father. We need to address this before it's too late." "Mommy," Maya called out. "Daddy made Bubblebeard." I covered the phone, heart racing. "Just a minute, baby." "What was that?" Mother's voice sharpened. "Television," I lied. "I was watching television." It sounded like a child. "Commercial. You know how loud they make them." But the seed of suspicion was planted. She started calling at odd hours, trying to catch me off guard. She hired a new private investigator, one who actually knew what he was doing. She even contacted my office, fishing for information about my lifestyle under the guise of planning a surprise. "We need to tell her," Daniel said for the 100th time. "This is getting out of control." "After the holidays," I promised, always after something. Then came the family dinner invitation, the one I couldn't refuse. My cousin Bradley's engagement celebration, a formal affair at Mother's Connecticut estate. Mandatory attendance for all family members. No excuses accepted. "I'll say I'm sick," I planned. "You've been sick for 3 family events," Daniel pointed out. "She's going to show up with a medical team if you try that again." So I went, left my real life on a Friday afternoon, kissing my husband and daughter goodbye like I was going to war instead of dinner. The train ride felt like traveling backward through time, each mile undoing the person I'd become. The house was exactly as I'd left it, immaculate, intimidating, and cold despite the designer's best efforts at warmth. Extended family had gathered from across the country, all there to celebrate Bradley's engagement to his suitable surgeon. Rachel, my Aunt Margaret air-kissed me. Still unmarried, how modern of you. Some of us are just more selective, I replied, the old script coming back easily. Mother held court in the living room. Bradley and his fiancée displayed like trophies. She was in her element, orchestrating conversations and managing impressions with the skill of a conductor. Rachel's here, she announced to the room, somehow making my arrival sound like both a surprise and a disappointment. Still single, of course, but we're working on that. Mom, Bradley said quietly, showing more backbone than usual. Maybe Rachel's happy as she is. Don't be ridiculous, Mother dismissed. No one's happy alone. She just hasn't met the right person yet. I stood there in my childhood home, surrounded by family who knew only the version of me Mother had curated, and felt the weight of 3 years of lies pressing down. Somewhere in Portland, Daniel was probably reading Maya her favorite story, the one about the bunny who finds his way home. They were my home, my real family, and I'd left them to play act in this museum of my former life. Dinner was its usual performance. Mother had seated me between 2 eligible men, a dermatologist and an investment banker who'd clearly been briefed on my situation. They took turns trying to impress me while Mother watched approvingly from across the table. Rachel works in communications, she told them, managing to make my career sound like a temporary hobby, though of course that would change after marriage and children. I love my job, I said firmly. For now, Mother smiled. But priorities shift when you meet the right person, don't they? Dr. Morrison. The dermatologist launched into a story about his ex-wife who'd found fulfillment in leaving her career to support his. I stabbed my salmon with perhaps more force than necessary. That's when she delivered the blow that would change everything. Poor Rachel, Mother laughed, addressing the table. 35 and still alone. At this rate, I'll need to buy cats for grandchildren. The table chuckled politely. Bradley's fiancée looked uncomfortable. I felt something inside me actually snap, like a rubber band stretched too far. No wonder you're still single at 35, Mother continued, warming to her theme. You've always been too stubborn for your own good. Remember, everyone, how she refused to date that lovely Pemberton boy Gay. Can you imagine? She drove him to it. Mother, Bradley tried to intervene. Oh, I'm just teasing, she waved him off. But really, Rachel, what's your plan? Wait until you're 40-50. At some point, you have to accept reality. I set down my fork carefully, deliberately, around the table. Conversations continued, but I'd gone somewhere quiet inside myself, somewhere I could hear Maya's laugh and Daniel's terrible singing and the way our old house creaked in the wind. Excuse me, I said, standing. I need some air. I walked out to the garden, to the spot where Dad used to sneak cigarettes when he thought no one was watching. The Connecticut stars were dim compared to Oregon's, dulled by proximity to the city, and perhaps by the weight of all the pretense below them. My phone buzzed, a text from Daniel. Maya insisted on wearing her tutu to the grocery store, paired it with rain boots, said she's a practical princess. Thought you should know you're raising a genius. Attached was a photo of my daughter in her mismatched outfit, grinning at the camera with Daniel's smile and my stubborn chin, my real life, in pixels and love, 3,000 miles away. There you are, Mother's voice cut through the darkness. You can't just leave in the middle of dinner. I needed a break. From what people trying to help you. She stood beside me, perfectly postured, even in anger. Do you know how embarrassing it is, my only daughter, refusing to grow up, playing at independence while her biological clock ticks away? What if I told you? Told me what another excuse, another reason why you're special and different, and don't need what everyone else needs. She turned to face me fully. I've been patient, Rachel, more patient than any mother should have to be, but this stops now. You're going to therapy. You're going to make an effort, and you're going to stop this childish rebellion. It's not rebellion, I said quietly. It's my life. Your life. She laughed. That crystalline sound that could cut glass. Your life is a studio apartment and a job that barely pays for your sad little existence. Your life is watching everyone else move forward while you stand still, stuck in some feminist delusion that you don't need a family. I almost told her then. The words crowded my throat. I have a family. I have everything you think I need. I have more love than you've ever shown me. But the photo of Maya on my phone reminded me why I'd kept the secret so long. Once Mother knew, she'd try to fix us. Mold Daniel into someone suitable. Turn Maya into another perfect Donovan princess. Poison the beautiful life we'd built with her particular brand of concerned control. I should go, I said instead. Go? She was incredulous. We're in the middle of a family celebration. Your celebration, I corrected. Your family, your rules. I just can't do this anymore tonight. I left her in the garden and went back through the house, making polite excuses about a work emergency. Bradley caught me at the door. You okay? He asked quietly. No, I admitted, but I will be. The train ride back to Portland felt like surfacing from deep water. Each mile was a breath, a return to myself. By the time I reached home, my real home, it was past midnight. Daniel was awake, waiting. How was it, he asked, though my face must have told the story. I almost told her, I said. She pushed and I almost... But you didn't... No, but Daniel, I can't do this anymore. The lying is killing me. It's killing us. He pulled me close, and I breathed in the scent of our Life baby shampoo and his cologne and the lavender candle Maya insisted on having in her room. So we tell her, he said simply. We tell her and deal with whatever comes. She'll be horrible. Probably. She'll try to break us up. She can try. She'll never accept you. Never accept this. Then that's her loss. He pulled back to look at me. Rachel, we have a beautiful life. A daughter who thinks wearing tutus to grocery stores is perfectly logical. A home full of love and terrible dad jokes. If your mother can't see the value in that, then maybe it's time to stop seeking her approval. He was right. Of course he was right. But 35 years of conditioning doesn't break easily, and the thought of finally, definitively choosing my family over her approval was terrifying. Still, as I climbed into bed beside my husband in our imperfect, perfect home, I knew something had shifted. The next time Mother called, things would be different. The double life was becoming too heavy to carry, and I was ready finally, truly ready to set it down. The only question was whether I'd have the courage to do it on my terms, or whether the universe would make the choice for me. The family dinner haunted me for weeks. Mother's words. No wonder you're still single at 35, echoed in quiet moments. When I was folding Maya's tiny clothes, or watching Daniel teach her to count with breakfast cereal, the contempt in her voice, the absolute certainty that my life was a failure, had burrowed under my skin like a splinter. You're somewhere else again. Daniel observed one evening. We were doing dishes together. Maya already asleep, the house settling into nighttime quiet. Just thinking. About her. I nodded, unable to deny it. She laughed. Daniel actually laughed at my life, at me. At who she thinks you are, he corrected gently. She has no idea who you really are. But that was the problem, wasn't it? I'd spent so much energy hiding my real self that Mother's perception had become a kind of reality. In her world, I was still that single, stubborn, disappointing daughter. The fact that her perception was based on lies I'd told didn't make her words hurt less. The universe, apparently tired of my indecision, started forcing my hand. It began with small things. Maya had started preschool and came home with family drawing assignments. This is Daddy, she'd explain proudly, showing off her crayon figures. This is me, this is Mommy, and this is... She'd pause, little forehead wrinkling. Who's the grandma in our family? You have a grandma, I'd say carefully. She just lives far away. Can she visit? Maybe someday. But Maya was persistent, the way only 3-year-olds can be. She asked about grandmas constantly. Why did her friend Emma have two grandmas and she had none that visited? Where exactly did Grandma live? Could we call her? Could she come to the preschool family day? Daniel fielded the questions when I couldn't, but I saw the toll it was taking. We were asking him to explain the inexplicable to a child who deserved better than carefully crafted half-truths. Then Mother escalated her campaign. The therapist she'd mentioned wasn't an idle threat. She'd actually booked appointments, 3 of them, with a relationship specialist in Connecticut. She'd even paid in advance, sending me the receipts with a note, "Non-refundable. I expect you there." "Just don't go," Daniel suggested. "You don't understand. If I don't go, she'll come here. With the therapist, she's done crazier things." "Then tell her the truth." "I will, just not yet." "Rachel," his voice held 3 years of patience worn thin. When Maya's in high school, when we're explaining why she's never met half her family, when exactly is the right time?" I didn't have an answer. The breaking point came, ironically, through Maya's innocent enthusiasm. She'd been learning about families in preschool family trees. Specifically, she came home with an assignment to fill in the branches with grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins. "I need pictures," she announced, clutching the paper with determination. "Mrs. Patterson says we show them to the whole class." I watched our daughter carefully write her name in the trunk of the tree. Her letters wobbly but proud. She filled in Mommy and Daddy, then looked up expectantly. "Where does Grandma Linda go?" she asked. My heart stopped. "Where did you hear that name?" "You say it sometimes when you're on the phone. Is that our grandma?" Daniel and I exchanged looks over her head. 3 years of careful segregation, undone by a preschooler's keen ears. "Yes," I said finally. "That's your grandma." "Can I put her on my tree?" "Of course, baby." "Do we have a picture?" I found an old photo from Dad's funeral, the only recent one where Mother looked somewhat approachable. Maya studied it seriously. "She looks fancy," she decided. "Does she like tutus?" "I don't know." "Everyone likes tutus," Maya said with the confidence of someone who wore tutus to grocery stores. "Can she come to family show day?" "We'll see." But Maya, inheritor of my stubborn streak and Daniel's problem-solving skills, took matters into her own tiny hands. The next day, while I was distracted with laundry, she found my phone. "What are you doing, sweetie?" "Calling Grandma Linda," she said matter-of-factly, "for my tree." I lunged for the phone, but it was too late. Mother had answered. "Hello, Rachel," finally returning my calls about therapy. "Hi," Maya chirped. "Is this Grandma Linda? I'm Maya." The silence that followed was deafening. I grabbed the phone, but the damage was done. "Who is this?" Mother's voice was ice. "Mommy, is Grandma mad?" Maya asked, her face crumpling. "Go find Daddy," I told her gently. "Mommy needs to talk to Grandma alone." Maya scampered off, and I lifted the phone with trembling hands. "Rachel, Elizabeth, Donovan." Each word was a bullet. "Explain, now." "Mother, Is that child yours?" "Yes." "How old?" Three years." She was doing the math. I could hear it in her voice. "You've had a child for 3 years and didn't tell me." "I can explain." "Who's the father?" "Some random man. Did you use a sperm donor? Is that why you've been hiding?" "I'm married," I said quietly. "His name is Daniel. We've been married for 3 years." The silence stretched so long I wondered if she'd hung up. When she finally spoke, her voice was unlike anything I'd heard from her before, not cold, not cutting, but genuinely bewildered. "Married, with a child, for 3 years." She laughed, but it wasn't her usual crystalline sound. It was broken, almost hysterical. "My daughter has been married with a child for 3 years, and I didn't know." "Mother." "No," the ice was back. "No, you don't get to mother me. Not after this. I'll be there tomorrow." "Tomorrow, but—" "Tomorrow, Rachel, and you'll explain everything, everything." She hung up. I stood in my kitchen, phone in hand. the life I'd built suddenly feeling as fragile as Maya's crayon drawings. "Daddy says you're sad," Maya announced, returning with Daniel in tow. "Are you sad about Grandma?" "A little," I admitted. "When I'm sad, I wear my tutu," she offered. "Do you want to borrow it?" Despite everything, I laughed. "Maybe later, baby." After Maya was in bed, Daniel and I sat on the couch, strategizing like generals before a battle. "She'll be horrible," I predicted. "Probably. She'll criticize everything. You, the house, Maya's clothes, my choices, our wedding. Rachel," he took my hands, "she can criticize all she wants, but she can't change what we've built. We're solid. The three of us. We're solid. What if she tries to take Maya? She has money, connections. She has nothing. We're Maya's parents. We're married. We've done nothing wrong except protect our family from someone who would have tried to destroy it. I should have told her sooner. Maybe, or maybe you knew exactly what you were doing. Maybe protecting us from her judgment was the best gift you could have given our early years together." I leaned into him. This man who'd stood by me through 3 years of deception and difficulty. "I love you. I love you too. And tomorrow, your mother will see exactly what her daughter has become, not a disappointment, but a woman with a beautiful family who was strong enough to build it without her approval." But as I lay awake that night, listening to Daniel's steady breathing and the occasional mumble from Maya's room, I wondered if strength would be enough. Mother had spent 35 years shaping me, molding me, trying to perfect me. Tomorrow, she'd see the life I'd chosen instead of the one she'd planned. Part of me was terrified, but another part, a part that grew stronger with each of Maya's laughs, each of Daniel's terrible jokes. Each day in our imperfect, perfect life was ready to stop hiding, ready to stop apologizing, ready to show Linda Donovan that her daughter hadn't failed at all. She'd simply succeeded at something different than expected. The confrontation was coming, and for the first time in 3 years, I wouldn't run from it. My family, my real family, was worth fighting for, even if it meant facing the woman who'd taught me that love always came with conditions. Tomorrow, I'd show her what unconditional actually looked like. Whether she could see it or not was no longer my concern. The hours after Mother's call were a whirlwind of planning. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, could only pace our living room while Daniel made lists and contingency plans like the software engineer he was. "We need documentation," he said, laptop open. "Marriage certificate, Maya's birth certificate, photos showing our life together. If she tries to claim this is some sham—" "She won't care about documents," I interrupted. "She cares about appearances, about how this looks to her friends, her social circle. Then we make it look good." How sorry I lied for 3 years, but here's my middle-class husband and my daughter who wears tutus to grocery stores. That's not going to play well in Greenwich. Daniel closed the laptop and pulled me down beside him. "Stop thinking like her. This isn't about winning her approval anymore. It's about showing her who you really are." But who was I, really? For 3 years, I'd been 2 people: the daughter she expected and the woman I'd chosen to become. Tomorrow, those 2 versions would collide, and I had no idea which one would survive. The next morning came too fast. Maya, blissfully unaware of the impending drama, chattered through breakfast about her family tree project. "Can Grandma Linda see my room?" she asked. "I want to show her my butterfly collection." "Maybe," I managed, pushing eggs around my plate. "And my drawings, and Mr. Buttons." Mr. Buttons was her favorite stuffed animal, a well-loved bear missing one eye. "We'll see how the visit goes." Daniel took the day off work. "United front," he said firmly. "She doesn't get to divide and conquer." By afternoon, I'd cleaned the house 3 times, changed clothes twice, and rehearsed 17 different versions of explanations. None of them seemed adequate for explaining 3 years of deception. "Stop," Daniel said, catching me adjusting the same picture frame for the 4th time. "The house is perfect. You're perfect. Maya's perfect. If she can't see that—" The doorbell cut him off. My stomach dropped. "I'll get it," I said. but my feet wouldn't move. Together, Daniel decided, taking my hand. Maya raced ahead of us. "Grandma!" she shouted, flinging open the door before we could stop her. Mother stood on our porch like an ice sculpture, perfectly composed, expensively dressed, and absolutely frozen. She stared at Maya, who was wearing her favorite outfit, a purple tutu, dinosaur t-shirt, and rain boots. "Hello," Maya said, suddenly shy. "I'm Maya. Are you my Grandma Linda?" Mother's gaze traveled from Maya to me to Daniel, cataloging everything in seconds. Daniel's Portland casual clothes, my nervous face, the modest house behind us, the life I'd hidden. "Yes," she said finally, voice carefully controlled. "I suppose I am." "Do you want to see my butterflies?" Maya asked hopefully. "Perhaps later." Mother's eyes never left mine. "I need to speak with your parents first." We managed to get Maya settled with a movie and snacks before gathering in the kitchen. Mother sat at our small table like visiting royalty in a peasant's cottage, taking in every detail with those sharp eyes. 3 years, she began without preamble. "You've been lying to me for 3 years. I didn't want to lie. But you did. Every phone call, every visit, every single interaction has been a lie." She turned to Daniel. "And you are—" "Daniel Morrison," he said, extending a hand she didn't take. "Your son-in-law." "My son-in-law." She tasted the words like foreign food. "Tell me, Daniel Morrison, what do you do?" "I'm a software developer. I work on applications for nonprofits." "Of course you do," she turned back to me. "Not a doctor, not a lawyer, not anyone from our world, a software developer." "A good man," I interjected. "A wonderful father, someone who loves me for who I am, not what my last name represents." "How romantic," she said dryly. "And how exactly did this situation come about? You just decided to throw away everything I'd built for you." "I didn't throw away anything. I built something different. Behind my back, in secret, like a teenager sneaking around. Because I knew you'd react exactly like this." The words exploded out of me. "Because I knew you'd judge and criticize and try to control everything." "Control," she laughed bitterly. "Is that what you call caring about your future? Making sure you don't waste your potential?" "My potential for what? For being exactly like you, for marrying someone I don't love because they have the right pedigree. For having standards," she stood abruptly, "for understanding that choices matter, that family reputation matters, that—" "Mommy," Maya appeared in the doorway. Mr. Buttons clutched to her chest. "Why is everyone yelling?" The room went silent. Maya looked between us, her little face worried. "We're just talking, sweetheart," I said gently. "Adult talk. Why don't you go back to your movie?" "Is Grandma Linda mad?" Maya whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear. Mother stared at her granddaughter, really looked at her for the first time. Maya stared back, all Daniel's gentleness and my stubbornness wrapped in a tiny, tutu-wearing package. "I'm not mad," Mother said finally. "I'm surprised." "Good surprised or bad surprised?" Maya pressed. "Daddy says there are both kinds." "I don't know yet," Mother admitted. Perhaps the first honest thing she'd said. Maya considered this, then walked over to Mother with the confidence of a child who'd never met a stranger she couldn't charm. "Do you want to hold Mr. Buttons? He helps when I don't know things." She thrust the one-eyed bear at Mother, who took it automatically. For a moment, my mother Linda Donovan, society matriarch, controller of destinies, stood holding a battered teddy bear, while a 3-year-old in a tutu patted her hand. "Thank you," Mother said quietly. "You're welcome. Mommy says we should always be kind, even when we're upset." Maya looked at me. "Right, Mommy." "Right, baby." "Okay, I'm going back to my movie now. But Grandma Linda, you can keep Mr. Buttons until you feel better." She skipped out, leaving us in a kitchen that suddenly felt too small for all the unspoken words. Mother sat back down, still holding the bear. "She's not what I expected." What did you expect? Daniel asked mildly. Horned scales. Some visible sign of failure. Daniel, I warned, but he pressed on. You don't know me, Mrs. Donovan, so let me be clear. I love your daughter. Not her trust fund, which she doesn't have because she walked away from it. Not her family connections, which we've never used. I love Rachel for her strength, her kindness, and yes, her stubbornness. The same stubbornness that let her build a life you never bothered to understand. I'm her mother. No, he said firmly. You're the woman who tried to force her into a mold she didn't fit. Rachel is Maya's mother. She knows what unconditional love actually looks like. Mother's face flushed. How dare you? Stop. I stood between them. Both of you, stop. This isn't helping. What would help? Rachel, mother asked. What exactly do you want from me to pretend I'm not hurt, to celebrate being excluded from my daughter's life? I want you to understand why I did it, I said. I want you to see that I'm happy, that I have a good life, even if it's not the one you planned. Happy, she gestured around our kitchen. In this modest house, with a husband who makes what? A fraction of what you could have had, with a child who wears tutus and rain boots. Yes, I said simply, happier than I ever was trying to be your perfect daughter. She flinched as if I'd slapped her. For a moment, vulnerability flickered across her face before the mask slammed back down. I see, she stood, still clutching Mr. Buttons. Well, you've made your choice clear. Mother, wait. No, Rachel, you wanted a life without me, and you built one. Congratulations. She set the bear carefully on the table. I'll see myself out. Linda, Daniel said suddenly, there's something you should know. She paused at the doorway. We're having a party next month. For Maya's 4th birthday. She wants a butterfly theme. He looked at me, then back at Mother. She'd like her grandmother there. Both of us would. Mother stood frozen, her perfect posture wavering slightly. You'd want me there after everything. Maya wants you there, I said carefully. And maybe we could start over, not as the people we were, but as who we are now. She turned to face us fully, and for once, I couldn't read her expression. I'll think about it. That's all we ask, Daniel said. After she left, the house felt emptier somehow. Maya wandered back in, looking for Mr. Buttons. Did Grandma Linda feel better? She asked. I think she's working on it, I told her. Good. Everyone feels better eventually. That's what you always say. That night, after Maya was asleep, Daniel and I sat on the porch, processing the day. That could have gone worse, he offered. Could have gone better too. She didn't disown you, didn't threaten lawyers, didn't try to steal Maya. She didn't accept us either. No, he agreed. But she took Mr. Buttons. That's something. I laughed despite everything. My mother, the grande dame of Greenwich society, had left clutching a one-eyed teddy bear. Do you think she'll come to the party? I asked. I don't know, but we invited her. We opened the door. The rest is up to her. He was right. For 3 years, I'd made all the choices to hide, to lie, to protect. Now the choice was hers. She could accept the family I'd built or lose us entirely. But I was done hiding, done pretending, done being ashamed of the beautiful life I'd created. The secret was out. Now all that remained was to see if Linda Donovan could love her daughter for who she really was, tutu-wearing granddaughter and all. 3 weeks passed without a word from Mother. Maya asked about Grandma Linda daily, wondering if she was still sad, if Mr. Buttons had helped, if she'd come to the butterfly party. Each question was a small knife twist, reminding me of the bridge I'd burned and the one I was trying to build. Then the invitation arrived. Not a call, not an email, but an actual engraved invitation delivered by courier. The Donovan Foundation's annual holiday gala, the crown jewel of Mother's social calendar. My name was on it, along with "and family." It's a trap, Daniel said immediately, reading over my shoulder. Maybe, or maybe it's an olive branch. An olive branch would be coffee at Starbucks. not a black tie gala with 300 of her closest judges. He was right, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this was significant. Mother never did anything without calculation. Inviting us to her most important event of the year meant something. We should go, I decided. Rachel. I know it's risky, but we've been hiding for 3 years. Maybe it's time to stop. Daniel studied me carefully. This isn't about proving something to her. No, I said, and meant it. It's about proving something to myself, that I'm not ashamed of us, that I can stand in that world as who I am now, not who I used to be. And Maya, I hesitated. Bringing our daughter into Mother's arena felt like throwing a lamb to lions, but keeping her hidden felt worse somehow, like I was ashamed of her too. We bring her, I decided. If Mother wants to acknowledge us, she acknowledges all of us. The 3 weeks until the gala were a flurry of preparation, finding appropriate clothes for Daniel, who owned nothing fancier than khakis, shopping for a dress that said, "Successful professional, not disappointing daughter," and most challenging, explaining to Maya why this party would be different from her friends' birthday parties. It's a grown-up party, I told her, with fancy clothes and quiet voices. Can I wear my tutu? We'll find you a special dress, a party dress. But tutus are party dresses, she pointed out with flawless 3-year-old logic. In the end, we compromised. A beautiful burgundy velvet dress that twirled crucial feature with a layer of tulle underneath that satisfied her tutu requirements. The night of the gala. I stood in our bedroom, hands shaking as I tried to fasten my necklace. Here, Daniel said softly, taking over. You look beautiful. I look like I'm trying too hard. You look like a woman who built her own life and isn't afraid to show it. He kissed my neck gently. We don't have to do this. Yes, we do. I'm tired of being two people. Tonight, everyone meets the real Rachel Donovan Morrison. The hotel ballroom was exactly as I remembered: crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, and enough floral arrangements to stock a botanical garden. We stood at the entrance, Maya between us, taking in the scene. Sparkly, Maya whispered, awed. Very sparkly, Daniel agreed. Remember what we practiced. Inside voice, walking feet, say please and thank you, Maya recited. Perfect, and if you need a break, find mommy or daddy. We entered together, a united front in enemy territory. Heads turned immediately. Conversations stuttered. I saw recognition dawn on familiar faces, followed quickly by confusion at the tall man beside me and the child holding my hand. Rachel. My cousin Bradley appeared, looking stunned. What are you? Is this... Bradley, I'd like you to meet my husband Daniel and our daughter Maya, I said calmly. Maya, this is cousin Bradley. Hi, Maya said cheerfully. I like your tie. It's shiny. Bradley's fiancé appeared, eyes wide. You're married with a child, but your mother said... My mother says a lot of things, I replied. The whispers started immediately, rippling through the crowd like waves. Rachel Donovan married. Rachel Donovan with a child. Rachel Donovan with someone definitely not from their world. We made our way through the room, me introducing my family to people who'd known me since birth but apparently hadn't known me at all. Some were cold, barely acknowledging Daniel. Others seemed genuinely curious, even warm. She's adorable, Aunt Margaret admitted grudgingly, watching Maya charm a waiter into letting her smell every appetizer before choosing one. Thank you. She gets her persistence from both of us. And her fashion sense. Margaret eyed Maya's burgundy dress with its subtle tulle rebellion. All her own. An hour in. Mother still hadn't appeared. The party swirled around us. Conversations and connections happening just outside our bubble. Daniel stayed close, hand on my back, steady and sure. Maya, remarkably, was behaving beautifully, using her fancy party manners as she called them. Then the crowd parted, and there she was. Linda Donovan in her element, wearing midnight blue and diamonds, every inch the society matron. She walked straight toward us, and the room held its breath. Rachel, she said coolly, you came. You invited us? Her gaze shifted to Daniel, then down to Maya, who was hiding slightly behind my legs. Indeed I did, she addressed Daniel directly. Mr. Morrison? Mrs. Donovan. And you must be Maya. Maya peeked out, suddenly shy. Hi. Hello? Mother studied her granddaughter with that analytical gaze I knew so well. That's a lovely dress. It twirls, Maya informed her, demonstrating with a small spin. So it does. Something flickered across Mother's face. Very practical for a party. That's what I said. Maya emerged fully from behind me. But Mommy said I couldn't wear my rainbow tutu. Well, sometimes we must make compromises, Mother said carefully, though I imagine a rainbow tutu would have been memorable. Was that almost a smile before I could process it? The evening's program began. We were seated at Mother's table, a shock that rippled through the room. The prodigal daughter at the matriarch's right hand, mysterious husband and grandchild in tow. Dinner conversation was strained but civil. Mother asked Daniel about his work, actually listening to his answers. She watched Maya carefully cut her chicken into tiny pieces, using her fork with concentrated precision. Good manners, she noted. We practice, I said simply. Mommy says manners are how we show people we care about them. Maya piped up. Like saying please and thank you and not talking with food in your mouth. Your mother is right, Mother said, and I nearly choked on my water. The evening's program included the usual speeches about charitable giving, auctions for vacations no one needed, self-congratulation dressed as philanthropy. Maya started to fidget during the third speech. Do you need a break? I whispered. She shook her head stubbornly. I'm being good for Grandma Linda. Mother heard this. I saw her stiffen slightly, then deliberately relax. You are being very good, she told Maya. But even grown-ups need breaks from long speeches. Would you like to see the balcony? It has a lovely view of the city lights. Maya looked at me for permission. I nodded, and she slipped her hand into Mother's, allowing herself to be led away. Did that just happen? Daniel whispered. I think so. They returned 10 minutes later. Maya chattering about the sparkle lights and how Grandma Linda knew which building was the tallest. Mother's expression was unreadable, but her hand rested gently on Maya's shoulder. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. The announcement of donations, the thanks to sponsors, the gradual shift from formal program to social mingling. Through it all, Mother included us, not warmly, exactly, but publicly, definitively. As the evening wound down, she pulled me aside. The Morrison family, she said quietly. That's who you are now. That's who we are, I confirmed. The Morrison-Donovan family, technically, but yes. And you're happy truly. I looked across the room where Daniel was dancing with Maya, her feet on his shoes as they swayed to the band. She was giggling. He was grinning, and they were absolutely perfect. Happier than I ever imagined possible, I said honestly. Mother followed my gaze. She's nothing like you were at that age. No, you were so serious, always watching, always careful. She's free. That's the point, I said softly. I wanted her to be free in ways I never was. Mother was quiet for a long moment. The invitation, she said finally, to her party, is it still open? Always. Then I'll be there. She straightened, armor sliding back into place. Though I make no promises about butterfly-themed activities. Just come as you are, I said. That's all we want. She nodded once, regally, then swept away to her other guests, but not before I caught her looking back at Maya one more time. Ready to go. Daniel appeared with our sleepy daughter in his arms. More than ready. As we left, I realized something had shifted. Not fixed, 3 years of secrets couldn't be erased in one evening, but acknowledged. We'd walked into Linda Donovan's world as ourselves, and we'd survived. More than survived, we'd made our stand. Mommy, Maya mumbled against Daniel's shoulder. Is Grandma Linda still sad? I think she's getting better, I said. Good. Everyone needs family. From the mouths of babes, even Linda Donovan needed family. The question was whether she could accept the one she had, rather than the one she'd planned. Only time would tell. But tonight, for the first time in 3 years, I had hope. The morning of Maya's butterfly party arrived with typical Portland drizzle. But nothing could dampen my daughter's excitement. She'd been awake since 5, arranging and rearranging the butterfly wings we'd made for guests, checking the butterfly food fruit cut into flower shapes, and asking every 10 minutes if Grandma Linda was really coming. She said she would, I assured her for the dozenth time. But what if she forgets? What if she gets lost? What if she doesn't like butterflies? Then we'll show her why butterflies are amazing, Daniel said, securing yet another paper butterfly to the ceiling. Our house looked like a lepidopterist's fever dream. The party wasn't at a country club or hotel ballroom. It was in our backyard, with streamers in the trees, and a homemade butterfly habitat Maya and Daniel had built together. There was face painting, a butterfly release planned for later, and a cake shaped like a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly Maya's specific request. It's metaphorical, she'd explained seriously, making Daniel snort coffee through his nose. Guests started arriving at 2 Maya's preschool friends, our neighbors, Daniel's colleagues with their kids, normal people living normal lives, the kind Mother would have once dismissed as pedestrian. At 2:47 I started to worry. At 2:53 I accepted she wasn't coming. At 2:59 I was preparing to console Maya. At 3:00 exactly, a black town car pulled up. Mother emerged, looking as out of place in our suburban neighborhood as a swan among pigeons. She wore designer clothes, but I noticed she'd chosen pants instead of a skirt practical for a backyard party. She carried a wrapped present and looked absolutely terrified. "Grandma Linda!" Maya shrieked, racing across the yard with paper butterfly wings bouncing. "You came. Do you want wings? Everyone gets wings." Mother stood frozen as Maya grabbed her free hand, tugging her toward the party. Wings. Butterfly wings, Daddy made them. They're sparkly. I watched my mother, Linda Donovan, who'd never worn costume jewelry, let alone costume anything, allow a 4-year-old to strap glittery butterfly wings over her designer jacket. "How do I look?" she asked Maya. "Beautiful, come see the butterfly house." The next hour was surreal. Mother, butterfly-winged, and increasingly less rigid, was introduced to every friend, shown every activity, and included in every game by her enthusiastic granddaughter. She judged the butterfly drawing contest with appropriate seriousness. She listened to lengthy explanations of butterfly life cycles from 4-year-olds. She even attempted the butterfly dance, though her version looked more like a formal waltz with wing movements. "Your mother is doing the butterfly dance," Daniel whispered in awe. "Should I document this?" "Don't you dare," I whispered back, but I was fighting a smile. When it came time for cake, Maya insisted Grandma Linda sit next to her. As we sang Happy Birthday, I watched Mother watching Maya, really seeing her granddaughter for the first time. Maya's joy was infectious, her happiness uncomplicated by expectations or conditions. "Make a wish," everyone shouted. Maya closed her eyes tight, then blew out all 4 candles in one breath. The crowd cheered. "What did you wish for?" Mother asked. "Can't tell," Maya said seriously. "Then it won't come true." "Ah, of course. Wish rules are very important." After cake came presents. Maya opened each one with theatrical excitement, thanking everyone profusely, even for duplicate coloring books. When she got to Mother's gift, she paused. "It's heavy," she announced. Inside was a book, vintage, leather-bound, beautiful. "The Complete Guide to Butterflies of North America," Mother explained. "It was your grandfather's. He loved butterflies, too." I felt my throat close. Dad's book. I remembered it from his study. Remembered him showing me pictures of monarchs and swallowtails. "Really," Maya breathed, touching the pages reverently. "My grandpa liked butterflies." "Very much," Mother said softly. "He would have loved your party." "Maybe he can see it from heaven," Maya suggested. "With the butterflies." "Maybe he can. The butterfly release was the party's grand finale. Each child got to release a painted lady butterfly from individual containers. Maya insisted Mother help her with hers. "Hold it gently," Mother instructed, her voice carrying an authority that made me realize she'd done this before, with Dad. "Now, when you're ready, just open your hand." They released the butterfly together, watching it spiral upward before disappearing over the fence. Maya clapped, then threw her arms around Mother's waist. "Thank you for coming to my party, Grandma Linda." Mother stood very still, then slowly placed her hand on Maya's head. "Thank you for inviting me." As the party wound down and guests departed, Mother lingered. She helped clean up, which was surreal enough, but then she followed Maya inside to see her room. I found them there later, Maya showing off every stuffed animal, every drawing, every treasure. Mother sat on the tiny bed, genuinely engaged, asking questions and admiring Maya's collections. "And this is Mr. Buttons," Maya explained, presenting the one-eyed bear. "You met him before, when you were sad." "I remember," Mother said. "He was very helpful." "He's good at that. Do you want to borrow him again?" "I think I'm okay now, but thank you." Maya climbed into Mother's lap, bold as always, and studied her grandmother's face. "You have pretty earrings." "Thank you. They were a gift from your grandfather." "The butterfly grandpa." "Yes. I wish I could have met him." "He would have loved you," Mother said quietly. "So much." They sat like that for a moment, grandmother and granddaughter, connected by a man they'd both lost at different times. "Grandma Linda," Maya asked, "are you going to come back?" Mother looked at me standing in the doorway. Something passed between us, not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. "If you'll have me," Mother said. "Yes," Maya bounced. "You can come to all my parties and regular days, too." Later, as Mother prepared to leave, we stood on the porch while Daniel helped Maya wave goodbye to the last butterflies. "I owe you an apology," Mother said abruptly. "Not just for my reaction, but for everything. The pressure, the expectations, the attempts to control your life." I blinked, stunned. Linda Donovan apologizing was like seeing a unicorn theoretically possible but practically unbelievable. "I thought I was protecting you," she continued, "giving you opportunities. I never considered I was taking away your choices." "You were doing what you thought was best," I offered. "No," she shook her head. "I was doing what was best for the image I'd created. The perfect family, the perfect daughter. I never stopped to ask what you wanted." "What changed?" I had to know. She looked at Maya, who was now doing her butterfly dance for the 100th time that day. She did, watching her today so free, so confident, so utterly herself. "You did that, you and Daniel. You gave her what I never gave you, the freedom to be exactly who she is." "We're not perfect parents," I said. "We make mistakes." "But you let her wear tutus to grocery stores," Mother said with something almost like a smile. "You encourage her obsessions instead of correcting them. You celebrate her instead of trying to improve her." "She doesn't need improving. She's already perfect." "Yes," Mother agreed. "She is, and Rachel, so are you. Just as you are. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it." I felt tears threaten. "Mom." "I know I have no right to ask," she interrupted, "but I'd like to try, to be part of this, not to change it or control it, just to be included." "It won't be easy," I warned. "We're not country club people. We shop at Target. We eat dinner at 6 because someone gets cranky. We have dance parties in the kitchen and wear costumes just because—" "I can learn," she said simply, "if you'll teach me." Before I could respond, Maya came running over. "Grandma Linda, Mommy Daddy says we can have hot chocolate to warm up with marshmallows." "That sounds wonderful," Mother said. "You can stay," Maya asked hopefully. Mother looked at me. I nodded. "I can stay." As we went inside, Maya chattering about butterfly facts from her new book, I realized this wasn't the dramatic confrontation I'd planned. There was no public humiliation, no gotcha moment, no revenge served cold. Instead, there was something better: the possibility of a future where my daughter could know her grandmother, where family dinners didn't require armor, where Linda Donovan could sit in our modest kitchen with butterfly wings still strapped to her back, drinking hot chocolate and learning to be a different kind of grandmother than she'd been a mother. It wasn't perfect. We had years of hurt to work through, patterns to break, trust to rebuild. But watching Mother help Maya count marshmallows, 3 for you, 3 for me, 3 for everyone, I felt something I hadn't expected: hope. The revolution I'd planned had become something else entirely. Not a war, but a bridge. Not revenge, but redemption. And maybe, just maybe, that was better. 6 months after the butterfly party, life had settled into a new rhythm. Mother visited monthly, always calling ahead, always respecting our schedules. She'd learned to text badly and sent Maya butterfly emojis that made no contextual sense but delighted her granddaughter anyway. But I should have known the peace was temporary. Linda Donovan might have been learning to be a grandmother, but she was still Linda Donovan. The call came on a Tuesday. "I'm hosting my Christmas gala next month," she announced. "I'd like you all to come." "Mother, we've been through this. Maya doesn't do well with late formal events." "Not that gala. A new one. A family gala. Afternoon. Child-friendly. Butterfly-themed. If Maya would like." I nearly dropped the phone. "You're hosting a butterfly-themed Christmas gala." "Don't be ridiculous. It's a Christmas gala with butterfly accents. Completely different." But I heard what she wasn't saying. She was trying, in her way, in her world. She was trying to make space for us. "We'll be there," I said. The night of the gala, we arrived to find the country club transformed. Yes, it was elegant and formal. This was still Linda Donovan, but there were touches of whimsy everywhere. Butterfly ornaments on the Christmas trees, a children's area with crafts and games. The party was scheduled from 4 to 7, Maya's optimal hours. Grandma Linda, Maya raced over in her special dress, red velvet with, yes, a tulle underlayer. "Look, butterflies and Christmas." "I thought you might enjoy it," Mother said, and I caught the pleased look when Maya hugged her automatically. The room was filling with familiar faces. Family, Mother's society friends, business associates, but also new faces, families with children, people I recognized from various charitable organizations Daniel and I supported. Our worlds, cautiously merging. "You've expanded the guest list," I observed. "Evolution," Mother said simply. "Even dinosaurs had to adapt." The party progressed smoothly. Maya charmed everyone, as usual. Daniel found himself in an animated discussion with a venture capitalist interested in nonprofit technology. I watched Mother navigate between her old world and our new one with surprising grace. Then it happened, the moment I'd both dreaded and anticipated. Mother stepped up to the microphone for the traditional toast. The room quieted. "Thank you all for coming," she began, every inch the polished hostess. "As many of you know, this year has been one of discovery." I tensed. Daniel found my hand. "Some of you have known my daughter Rachel all her life. You watched her grow up, attended her graduations, perhaps wondered with me about her future." She paused, finding me in the crowd. "I'm delighted to share that Rachel's future is even brighter than I imagined, just different than I expected." Murmurs rippled through the room. 3 years ago, my daughter made a choice. She chose love over convention. She chose happiness over approval. She chose to build a life that was truly hers, rather than the one I'd planned for her. Mother's voice remained steady, but I saw emotion flickering underneath. She also chose to hide that life from me, and after considerable reflection, I understand why. The room was silent now, everyone sensing the weight of this moment. I believed I knew what was best. I believed success had a specific shape, that happiness followed a particular formula. I was wrong. She looked directly at me. "Rachel, you tried to tell me so many times, in so many ways. I'm sorry I didn't listen." Tears were flowing freely down my face now. Daniel squeezed my hand tighter. "But this isn't about my failures," Mother continued. her voice strengthening. This is about celebrating what Rachel built despite them. A strong marriage to a wonderful man who sees her true worth, a successful career she chose for herself, and most remarkably, a daughter who embodies everything I should have valued all along: kindness, creativity, and the confidence to wear butterfly wings whenever she pleases. Light laughter rippled through the crowd. Maya, not understanding the significance but recognizing her cue, did a little twirl. So I'd like to propose a toast. Mother raised her glass. To Rachel and Daniel Morrison, who built a beautiful life without my help or approval. To their daughter Maya, who teaches an old woman new tricks daily. And to the courage it takes to choose love over expectation, authenticity over approval, and family, real family over everything else. The room erupted in applause. I was openly sobbing now. Not the pretty tears Mother had taught me, but real, ugly, healing tears. Maya, concerned, tugged on my dress. "Mommy, why are you crying?" "Happy tears, baby. Sometimes we cry when we're really happy." Oh. She considered this. Like when we released the butterflies. Exactly like that. Mother made her way through the crowd to us. Up close, I could see she'd been crying 2 waterproof mascara be damned. "I meant every word," she said quietly. "I know. I can't undo the past, Rachel, the pressure, the judgment, the years of making you feel insufficient, but I can do better. I am doing better." "You are," I agreed. "We all are." Maya, bored with adult emotions, tugged on Mother's hand. "Grandma Linda, they have a chocolate fountain. Can we go see?" "Of course." Mother allowed herself to be pulled away, but not before adding, "Your father would have been so proud of all of this, of all of you." As the party continued, I found myself watching my 2 worlds blend. Mother introducing Maya to her friends with obvious pride, Daniel laughing with my cousins, Maya teaching a group of children her butterfly dance. "No dramatic confrontation after all," Daniel observed. "No public humiliation, no revenge served cold." "Disappointed?" I asked. "Relieved," he said. "This is better, harder, maybe, but better." He was right. Revenge would have been satisfying for a moment. This messy, complicated, gradual building of something new, this would last. Later, as we prepared to leave, Maya asleep in Daniel's arms, Mother pulled me aside one last time. "I've been thinking," she said, "about your deception. 3 years of lies." My stomach dropped. "Mother." "I'm grateful," she interrupted. "If you'd told me right away, I would have ruined it. I would have criticized Daniel, tried to control your wedding, imposed my will on every decision. You protected your family from me until it was strong enough to survive me. That took wisdom I didn't credit you with." "I never wanted to lie to you." "I know, and someday, I hope you won't feel the need to. But Rachel." She touched my cheek gently, a gesture so unexpected I froze. "You're a wonderful mother, the kind I should have been, the kind I'm trying to learn to be now." "It's never too late," I offered. "No," she agreed. "It's not." As we drove home, Maya stirring in her car seat, I reflected on the journey, the scared girl who'd fled to Portland seeking freedom, the woman who'd built a life in secret, the mother who'd protected her family with silence, and now, finally, the daughter who could stand in her truth without armor or apology. My phone buzzed, a text from Mother. "Thank you for giving me another chance. Tell Maya the Butterfly Museum has a new exhibit. Perhaps we could go together." "Look at that," Daniel said, reading over my shoulder. "Linda Donovan planning butterfly museum trips? Never thought I'd see the day." Neither had I. But that was the thing about family. Real family, it could surprise you. It could grow. It could transform like a caterpillar into something beautiful, if you gave it the chance. "Mommy," Maya's sleepy voice came from the back seat. "Is Grandma Linda happy now?" I thought about Mother's speech, her tears, her careful attention to Maya all evening, the way she'd created space for us in her world while trying to enter ours. "Yeah, baby," I said. "I think she finally is." Good, Maya yawned. Everyone should be happy. That's what families do, make each other happy. From the mouths of babes, again. As we pulled into our driveway, our little craftsman house glowing warmly in the Portland rain, I realized my daughter was right. This was what families did, the real ones, the chosen ones, the ones you fought for and forgave and kept rebuilding. We'd started with a secret marriage and ended with a public celebration. Started with fear and ended with freedom. Started with two separate worlds and ended with one beautifully imperfect family. It wasn't the revenge story I'd once imagined. It was better. It was real. It was ours. And as I carried my sleeping daughter into the house she'd never have to hide in, I whispered a thank you to the universe for butterflies, and tutus, and second chances. Most of all, for the courage to choose love over fear, truth over comfort, and family messy, complicated, wonderful family over everything else. The end. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Please share in the comments below so we can connect and discuss your thoughts about Rachel's journey. If you enjoyed this tale of family, secrets, and second chances, please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. And if you want more people to discover this story, please consider hitting the hype button. It really helps the video reach others who might need to hear that it's never too late to choose authenticity over approval. Until next time, keep choosing love over fear.